Hamakavi Barzel presents Rabbi Nachum Shifren, Torah scholar, author, public speaker, and good friend of the late Rabbi Meir Kahana.
Well, good afternoon or good evening. We're back again, and it's actually after Shabbos, but we're going to get it done. Parasha TOLDOT. Excuse me. Yes. At the very end of Parsha TOLDOT, but before we even go to Parsha TOLDOT, let's look at, if we may, let's look at a few things that are happening in the world. Amazing stuff is going on, as always. And if we reflect back on the Jewish idea from Rabbi Kahana, everything is quite clear. His admonition, if you want respect, you better have self-respect. Here it is at this late stage in the game. Hamas has not been subdued. There's been a ceasefire, if you want to call that a ceasefire, where Israel is still taking incoming from murderers that have Jewish blood on their hands. What world are we living in when you make a ceasefire with people that are shooting at you and ready to kill more of you? Doesn't make sense, right? This is the problem with, I don't know what to say, liberal, woke, half-baked measures, whatever you want to call it. Rabbi Kahana once said something that we will never forget. He said, this is the Middle East, not the Middle West, meaning American values and American, sensitivities, you can just throw those out the window. Now, we don't want to do that. And that's the problem that we have today. We don't want to accept the reality as it is, which is the reality of the jungle. Okay, of might, and might is right. We don't like that as Americans. We like to negotiate. I remember the famous remark from John Kerry, Nebuch. He when regarding the dealing with the Muslim Brotherhood and ISIS and all these other groups that want to kill infidels like you and me. He said, well, can't we just talk to them and reason with them? No, you can't talk to them. You can't reason with them. For them, dying is better than living. That's why they like to die. This is what we don't understand. They're like flies, or they're like cockroaches that you just step on and you don't think about. That's how they are. And as soon as we figure out what the reality is, the better it is for us. So many things we need to talk about, but I just wanted to focus on one thing that I feel is very important. Being a teacher for many years, I've learned to see, corruption and incompetence like a mile away before it even enters the classroom. But here's an example that I wanted to point out to our listeners here. There was this is a well documented case. It's a pretty egregious case and kind of infamous, I should say, of a woman who was at a job interview, and the CEO was interviewing her for a job, not sure which one, and all of a sudden her cell phone went off. First of all, who's going to bring a cell phone to an important interview, right? But bizarre is what happened. She informed the CEO. She said, I got to take this call, and I'll just take 1 second. The CEO is slack-jawed, looking at the woman, doesn't know how to react. She gets off the phone, and he says to her, are you aware that this is a job interview, and your performance on this interview was severely handicapped by what you did? She was completely clueless. She just commented that, I just had to take the call. I mean, it's my cell phone after all, right? and the intelligent person will draw hopefully the right conclusion on that. I recall once I had a principal that, not a very endearing principal in terms of my relationship with her, but she came into my class once, and about 50% of my kids were on cell phones, which is normal, right? For many schools, that's what it is, unless there's a new law that says you can't have a cell phone in class. The principal said to me, as if I was to blame. She said, are you aware that 50% of your students are not paying attention to you and they're on cell phones? I said, yes, I'm aware. She said, what are you going to do about it? I said, I'm going to fail them. She was shocked. In our parsha, we have a situation where Jacob is forced to leave his father's home, father and mother, Rivka, due to the fact that his brother wants to kill him. Well, oh God, brotherly love, right? You don't like your brother, you kill him. And this is what our forefathers were faced with, a lot of this tribulation and trials and whatnot. So on his way to go to the house and the community of his mother, where he would be safe away from Esau, his brother, on the way he goes to a well. He's at the well. He sees a whole bunch of shepherds sitting around, right? And it's probably about 3:00 in the afternoon, I guess, according to what the parsha tells us. And he's astonished. He sees the guys sitting around, and he asks them, "What are you guys doing?" He says, "Well, we're waiting for somebody to help us open the well. There's apparently a big rock or big stone covering the well, so stuff won't get in the well." And he said, one of two things is happening here. You're either quitting your work early, or you're just wasting time, and this is on your boss's dime. Now the question that comes into play here, which is not asked by Rashi or anybody else, but this is a something that's connected with it, certainly, is that why would it be a situation where people are just lazy and sitting there, and they're not attending to the flocks that the owner of the flocks assigned them to? So Jacob is admonishing them. Now Jacob doesn't know them. Never met them in his life. Why would he be sticking his nose out and trying to do something righteous here with them? Well, Maseh Avot Siman Labanim. The acts and deeds of the fathers, of our forefathers, are signs for us to learn from. The answer here is he did what was right. He didn't have to, but he did it, right? And kind of reminds me when you go to the airport and you see the TSA guys standing around talking about their breaks, the chicken that they're going to eat or the pizza that they ordered or whatever. And there's like 10 people waiting on one guy. Apparently there's not much else going on. That kind of a situation, right? Well, the taxpayers are on the hook for that. So everybody thinks it's okay. What I'm trying to get at here is that Jacob is giving us a message about responsibility, about accountability. There can be no society where there is progress, where there's liberty, where there's people that are enjoying the benefits of their labor, where you have a group of people that are just not performing, not functioning, and not giving their all to what they were employed to do. The same thing applies for in any other endeavor. How many times was I on a yeshiva in studying Torah in Israel or here, when you've got 20 to 30% of the people in a particular yeshiva just not doing anything, right? The whole idea of being accountable is, if you're in a yeshiva, you're obviously, your parents are paying the money for it, or else you're getting a scholarship. So you should be accountable for that. Here too, Jacob is showing the world, he's showing us that there's no time to waste. Time goes by. We live 1 year, the next year, and when we count up all the years of time that we spent wasting, right? And it's pretty incredible. It's actually horrifying when you think of all the time that we spent. In the world of Torah, which Jacob was completely immersed, there's the same concept. He spent 14 years with his uncles, Shem and Ever, learning Torah. In the parsha, we were told that he slept when he went to Jerusalem. God brought a miracle, and it set the sun early, so he would sleep there that night, meaning that would be a holy place, and that would be the place where the temple would be built in the future. But regarding the other 14 years of his life spent abroad, as it were, he was studying, and the Torah tells us that he didn't sleep. He was just learning the whole time. So if we get back to the well and the shepherds and the flocks sitting there, and the shepherds are idle, they're not doing their job. This is an amazing thing when you read this in the Torah. It really doesn't make sense at first. Jacob is supposed to be looking for a wife. He's supposed to be going to the house of his mother's sister, his aunt, and that's the whole emphasis on the parsha, what he's going with his whole purpose for traveling. But then he gets sidetracked, and the Torah tells us something very, very important. But it's made light of in the Torah. It doesn't really talk about it too much. You have to read some of the Meforshim, some of the literature in the Zohar and other places to see this concept of accountability for our actions, especially if we're being paid to do something. We need to do what we agreed to on the pay, right? And that's the whole point of this week's parsha. I hope that everybody had a good Shabbat. We are now set for a new reality where Jacob is forced to leave home. He is the father of the Jewish people at this point. He's now got the birthright. His brother sold it to him. Obviously, Esau was not appropriately given that, even though he was the firstborn. So it turns out that Jacob fooled him out of his birthright. And then if you look at the translation in Aramaic and in Onkelos, it said that it's in Hebrew. It says that he tricked his brother in order to get the birthright. But in the Onkelos, which is the essential translation, it says that he used chokhmah, he used wisdom, conniving, if you will, to get the birthright so that he would have it as a legacy for the Jewish people after him. On that word, I hope that everybody is going to have a good Shabbat. I hope everybody will be active in their communities. Whoever's watching this, to remember that the JDL needs you. They need your support. They need your contributions. And I look forward to getting email from people that have something to add to what I commented about, or take exception to what I mentioned, whatever it should be. And you should have a Shabbat Shalom coming up, a week of peace, and a week of learning more Torah. God bless everybody. Take care.